there are a lot of different stories about who Saint Germain is, but he's a very mysterious being who started appearing in Europe around the year 1700. And he used the name Saint Germain, which is from the Latin Sanctus Germanus. It means holy brother. He's not a saint in the Catholic Church, it's just a name. And some women kept diaries, and these diaries are in the British Museum. And he was seen in Paris, in London, and St. Petersburg, all in the same day, Well, this is in 1700. They didn't have jet planes then, So this would be physically impossible, except he is what's called an ascended master, that he can appear or disappear wherever he wants, It's similar, like Jesus could do the same thing, and there are many other masters that have achieved that, So he worked, he tried to help prevent the French Revolution, and he helped the United States get started. He was instrumental in that. So he's not just a spiritual master, he works also in the world of business and politics, And he's really working to bring a golden age on the earth, People say that, but then you have to say, what is alchemy? The real alchemy is transforming yourself from a physical being into a spiritual being. They symbolically, they say the alchemist turns lead into gold, but the physical body or the human consciousness is lead. We have to transform it into spiritual consciousness and transform the physical body into a spiritual body, into a light body. That's the real alchemy, Yeah. So his goal is really to bring the teachings of God in you to humanity, that we don't need to worship a God outside, that God is in the heart of everyone and in the mind of everyone. And when you say the words, I am, you tune into that, not from the ego, but when you say it with consciousness, you feel the I, that I am, that's the real you, that's the presence that makes your heart beat, it makes your lungs breathe. That's the God flame in your heart. So his mission has been to teach that to people, Now, this was known in India for a long, long time, ancient Egypt and in India, maybe in the mountains in China. People knew this, but he brought it to the West, to Europe, to the United States, So his goal is to help people find this God presence inside, And, there are a lot of people teaching enlightenment, but this is beyond enlightenment, mastery. He's teaching mastery, how to be enlightened, but how to be in the world at the same time. Enlightened people sitting in caves in India, they can be in bliss and in oneness, but they can't go into the world and relate to other people or be in business, have jobs and families and things like that. I met some of these yogis when I lived in the Himalayas, They were lost when they went into town. They could only have peace and bliss if they were alone in the mountains, So, yeah, so I was very fortunate to meet Saint Germain. So I had come back from India, and I was living in Berkeley, California, on a friend's floor, and I didn't really want to be back here because people were just pursuing material things, how to be famous and how to make more money and things like that. And So I remembered these yogis in the Himalayas that could leave their body when they wanted. They said, when my life here is finished, when I've done everything I want, I'm going to go into the spiritual world and merge with my spiritual body. So there's a picture behind me of the spiritual body. That's called the I am presence. So I thought I would like to merge with that. You see, the physical body is down below. So I went out. One day I was meditating and a ball of light came into the room and I heard, go to Muir Woods. That's this forest near San Francisco. And, to make a long story short, this being appeared out of thin air in front of me. There was nobody there. And the next minute there was somebody there physically. And I write about this in my book, which you just published. And he said, I have heard your prayer. And he said, you can leave the earth if you want. In fact, I will take you there. And he put his arm around me, took me up to a world above the earth where beings existed as balls of light. And it was so blissful there. I said, this is wonderful. This is where I want to be. But then I heard crying coming from someplace. And I looked down and I saw the earth below me. And I saw all the suffering that was on the earth. And my heart just went out. I said, I can't leave. I want to go back and help people. And he said, you made the right choice. Now we'll be working closely together, but you need training first. I want you to go to Mount Shasta and you will meet someone there who will be your teacher. And this was the woman Pearl, who I write about in the book. So anyway, the next thing I know, I was back in my body in the forest. And he said, now I will show you who I am. And he turned into a master wearing a white robe. And then I realized that was Saint Germain. I had seen his picture at the Theosophical Society in India. And then he just disappeared, faded out into the air. So I went to Mount Shasta and he said, the first person you meet will tell you what to do next. Well, a guy came up to me in a restaurant and he said, you were supposed to see Pearl. So I went to see her and she said, I've been expecting you. And I said, how could you be expecting me? We've never met before. She said, the Master Saint Germain came to me this morning and said he was sending you to see me. So that was in 1973. And I studied with her many years and she introduced me to many other ascended masters as well. And she taught me how to tune in to my own God presence within me and how to call it forth in the world, like how to say I am, and what you say after I am is what you create. So that's this book which you have been so kind to publish, which I think will help many people in Korea, that the spiritual path does not mean just going into a cave and going into bliss. You learn how to bring the spirit into daily life and how to create with it and how to bring peace and harmony and healing and love into daily life, and how to create abundance also, and how to be a master, to be a benefit to humanity. Okay, well, the I Am teachings on the most basic level would be the power of positive thinking. This was, somebody wrote about this in the United States in the 1930s because people were depressed because of the economy. And they said, instead of thinking negative thoughts, try to think positive thoughts, like, I am going to be abundant. There is money coming to me. By saying I am, you would create a positive visualization instead of negative, But in the higher sense, it's not just using I am to create what you want. When you tune into God within you, you want to create what God wants, because the ego has all kinds of desires. I want this, I want that. And, you can use I am to create those things. Then you find you have all this stuff that you don't need, you don't want, you don't know what to do with. So Saint Germain teaches how to say I am from the center of your being. So it's not the ego saying it, it's God within you saying I am. So as you meditate, you become more and more one with the I, which is the God focus, the ray of light coming in. Then when you say am, that's like the divine mother principle that releases the love that brings the mind principle into being. So with I am, you create. So it teaches you how to be a creator, how to be a master. So this is a little bit different from the spiritual path that says just surrender, surrender and allow everything to happen, just be in the oneness. This is actually invoking the creative aspect of God. It is, you can experience it even if you're not advanced. You can try the I am in your daily life and see the results, like I say, well, if I was having trouble with my computer, I am the presence of God bringing the perfect person to help with my computer. And then the next day a friend says, oh, I know how to fix that, so. The other thing that I talk about in my book is how to get guidance. See, it's not just creating, but once you're tuned in to the God flame in your heart, the masters and your own higher self can guide you. So you start out thinking, I'm going here, this is my plan, but on the way you get a feeling to stop and turn left, and then say, park your car. And then you think, why did I park here? I had no plan to do this. You get out, then there's somebody that was looking for you. They didn't know how to contact you. It's a very important meeting. And you were guided. The masters could guide you that way if you just follow your heart, So it's not just emphasis on willpower. It's tuning into the higher will. God has a plan for your life. And the masters, the ascended masters, are messengers of God. And as you become a student of the masters, then you are a messenger of God also. An interesting story, I've never read really another book like this. I'm not bragging, but people tell me, that it's an unusual book because I'm talking about my experiences with the masters in daily life. And I had many other experiences, not just with Saint Germain, but with El Morya and Kutumi and other ascended masters, where I sometimes met them physically or in dreams, and they gave me guidance. And this was not just sitting in meditation. This is in business. And I worked in Hollywood for a while in the movie business. And I was in the financial brokerage business for a while. So they teach you in daily life. You don't have to drop out of the world and go in a cave to do this. They teach you in daily life. That's where you learn mastery, Even, being in relationship with someone, being married, having children, that's a great place to learn mastery. How many seekers are there in Korea of the I am?
It's just a few for now.
I think there are many seekers, they just don't know it. Everybody is looking, And I find that Korean people have a great deal of innocence and purity and love, and that's essential. So if you add the I am to that, that puts you in touch with your inner power, It calls your spirit into action. It's not just surrender to God, it's God, please come through me and use me as a vehicle for your work in the world, I like to mention something you said. You said you've been meditating. I talk about meditating on the inner light. And you said you didn't see the light, you know? That's okay. Most people don't see it like you see a light bulb or something. It's more of a feeling, like the feeling of love. You don't see the love, but it's a warmth there. So imagine that that warmth is a light, you know? Then eventually you may see it too. Like I talk about the violet flame, the violet Tara. People actually seeing that now. They say, I call on the violet consuming flame to dissolve all negative conditions. Then some people actually see violet light in the room, you know? So I talk about that in this book also. You know, I didn't even know if I should write this. I didn't sit down to write it. Just I would meet people and they would ask if I had ever met a master, or they want to know what's happening in Mount Shasta. This is supposed to be a mystic mountain. You know, so I tell people these adventures that I had, and they would say, that's fantastic. You should write that in a book. And so, you know, about, 15 years went by. And one day I just started writing and I asked an editor, is this any good? And they said, this is fantastic. I've never read another book like this. So she encouraged me to publish it, you know? And I hear from people all over the world that say they have not read true adventure stories with the masters, you know? I mean, ascended masters, you know? So I am very blessed to have had these experiences. And I think the masters gave me these experiences because I was a writer and they knew I could write about them. Yeah, so people tell me the stories in there have helped them a lot. You know, it's an adventure story, really. It's not I'm not preaching, you know, like giving a sermon in church or something. It's not theoretical. It's just, these are the experiences I had being taught by Saint Germain on the path of mastery. And I have not read another book like it. Unveiled Mysteries is similar. That was written by Godfrey Ray King, but most of those experiences are on the inner planes. They're not so much actual true stories happened in the day-to-day world, you know. When you are reading that book is like a passport to Saint Germain. When you hold that book in your hand, send out a thought to Saint Germain, please show me the truth of this book. And I would like to have contact with you. I would like to study with you and learn from you. And, you know, when I go to sleep at night, please teach me and see to it I remember in the morning when I wake up, you know. Yeah, I would encourage the Korean readers to form, you know, an online group, you know, where they can talk about their experiences, you know. Yeah, and I say this is a picture of Saint Germain on the wall. That's how he appeared sometimes in the courts of Europe. Sometimes he appears differently, you know. He could appear even in very ordinary role, like I met him once, he was wearing a sweatshirt and flip-flops, you know, just appear like a young guy, you know, a kid or something. He doesn't always appear looking very formal like this, you know. He can appear any way he wants to appear, and he has a great sense of humor too. Korean people, you have my love and blessings, and may the ascended masters be with you and guide you and direct you on your spiritual path. So.